Hola. Buonasera. Ni hao? Yeah, anyway, should probably pull the mic closer to me. Yeah, that would probably make it easier. So, I'm a couple minutes late because it's hard to disrupt me when I finally get the chance to work on some things to explore a little bit further. I tend to get in the midst of something and then look up when it's almost time, and then I gotta hurry to hop on here and get this stuff uploaded. But thing that I'm exploring today. So let's see. Looking at I think primarily looking at Teespring, but looking at a few other things. So when looking at the idea of being able to, Teespring looks like when they've cracked open their digital capabilities for making merch, that they have made a lot of things suddenly very possible. So looking at Teespring right now, their digital products, it's a little misleading because every time you go into the Teespring design launcher and you're offered the ability to look at the categories of content that they offer, click on digital, it takes you down to the section there where they have digital product, document, audio file, image file, photo filter, digital wallpaper, ebook, e-comic, digital poster, and digital planner. Now, some of that sounds exceedingly interesting, but they also have that little slideshow they have playing at the top that says, join the new wave of sell downloadable workout schedules, meal planners, feel-good recipes, self-care tips, and more. The photo filters, they detail the wallpapers, ebooks and e-comics, printable posters, virtual backgrounds for using on chroma keying like this, coloring books, bring your creations to life and allow your followers to relax while coloring your illustrations, provide a single sheet or a bundle, sustainable product that could be used with coloring apps. See, like, I've never really explored coloring apps, but that seems like a tappable resource. And then they have digital planners, which is interactive planners, to-do lists, and calendars that can be used on a variety of devices and apps. So it's globally used and recognized product, capable with apps like Good Notes and Notability. Buyers can use in-app or print out. So Good Notes and Notability. Let's look those up. Nope, that's Nate. Notability. I think that's it. So Notability is an sort of an app planning thing. Good Notes, note-taking app. So these look like interesting approaches to the idea. I was thinking maybe perhaps like a fill-out form that you can do in like a PDF format or something like that is a possibility too. And it looks like you could put that as a simple document file if you know what you're doing. But expanding into that category of exploration a little bit further, one of the things I happened to bounce into was, say, clicking on any one of them brings up the same thing. So digital product, and it brings up the same create your digital product listing. And it's like the same format for all of them. So I don't think they're really putting a crimping limit on anything you're doing. And I'll pop back over here to see how people are checking in. So looking at it, the the setup for uploading it is upload the file that you've created that you will be selling, and then pictures of the product for the sale, the title, everything like that. But popular file types, so they're compressed files, so zip files, documents, which include PDF, DOC, DOCX, PPT, which is, I believe, PowerPoint, and PPTX. I'm not sure if PPS is and PPSX are also PowerPoint. That might be a slideshow. ODT, XLS, XLSX, and PSD. That might be a Photoshop document. I'm not sure. Image files can be JPGs, JPEGs, PNGs, GIFs, and ICOs, which would be icons. It'd be kind of interesting to just do a series of custom-made icons for somebody's. So photo filters are DNG and XMP. Audio files are MP3, M4A, OGG, and WAV. Video does MP4s, M4V, MOVs, WMVs, AVIs, MPGs, OGVs, 3GPs, and 3G2. I don't know half of those. But here's the thing that's kind of interesting, and it caught my attention just before I hopped on here tonight, was they offer another category of popular file types listed as game with .b, .dem, .gam, .nes, .rom, .sav, .tga, .obj, .vtf. Now, these are just popular file types. There doesn't seem to be any like indicator that if I had a file type that's not currently listed in that list, that they wouldn't let me upload it. So it's possible, like just going off of the suggestion that they've provided there, seems to suggest that you could potentially sell games as merchandise with a Teespring account that you could link to your YouTube account. So I could produce videos talking about settings or ideas. When I have mine up and running, and I dabble with it every day, so I've never taken it down. I'm still signed in. Once you're signed in, I think what I did was I went into the design launcher. So that's literally just what you go into. Yeah, I'm caught in a loop. You essentially just go into start designing a product. And then you pick the category of product. You don't even have to pick a category, because that's one of the other things I wanted to explore today was, like, if I do a digital planner, it looks like some of the formats they talk about with the good notes and notability files, that you can print them out and do them on paper. So that's an interesting formatting doowacky. But what I'm kind of curious about here is the idea of doing like a wall calendar. Like, does Teespring offer the ability to do wall calendars? Home does posters. So if I made a digital file, if I made a digital file format of an image that is a planner or a calendar of some kind, they could print out one large calendar. The base cost for the poster would be $9.86. And that's for an 18 by 24. If you wanted a 24 by 36, it would be a $12.46 base cost. Canvas we'll get to in a minute. That's not what I would use for a planner, but that's what they've got in home. Now let's see, what do they got in accessories? Phone cases, stickers, pins. That doesn't, like, accessories doesn't seem to have much in the way of options that I'm super into. Maybe play around with stickers. But looking at apparel, what else do they got in there other than shirts and socks and whatnot? Okay, so it's pretty standard. Really, I think the playground for me and the other options would be the digital and the home. Maybe with some accessories. I mean, I technically I can imagine using each of those 4 categories. It's, I'm not saying no to any of them, but what I was thinking of is, like, I do know that when I talked with one of the representatives of Teespring at VidCon a couple years ago, they were talking about how they were looking at the possibility for some of their physical goods, like shirts and whatnot, to be able to find a supplier of the material you're looking for that Teespring can then print stuff on. And so there seems to be a lot of room for them to be flexible towards expanding. If you want to do something that they can't seem to currently do, and you can work with them to help figure out how to achieve it, it may be possible. And I'm curious about the possibility of, like, I don't see the future right now. I do know, I think in 2019 when we talked about this, I did some looking into it, and there was a feature on their site that let you custom order plush animals through a secondary provider. Now, I'm sure that feature is gone now. I'm sure there's a lot of features that are gone now because of the partners they may have partnered with at some time going under because of all the economic and pandemic-related problems. But their willingness to explore and play with expansions makes me hopeful that some of the things that I may end up wanting to try to do, we can bend around into a new format. So looking at the digital goods, like, I'm thinking of like a PDF document that's a fillable form. So like the document itself is uneditable, but the places where you fill in things are things you can write whatever you want into that space. That to me seems like I could see a lot of potential uses for that in just an absolute field day of experimentation and play. Like, one of the things I got thinking about was, like, I'm pretty sure it would be a fillable form style document file that I'm thinking of that would be, maybe you could do it as a planner, I don't know. For people who play tabletop games, like if you're playing Yahtzee, could you build a form so that you don't have to use print documents like that little tablet and order new ones when you run out? Like, you just use your phone or your iPad or your laptop if you're doing it on playing an online game with family. Like, if we were to do, like, I think one of the last times I was on here, I talked about the idea of doing a video where it's rolling dice. Like, I could legitimately do a video where it's 6 dice rolls and or how many dice you roll on a game of Yahtzee, and make that a video that you play and having people play a game with each other on Discord or a Zoom or some of these other ways of doing digital interactions and phone calls, video calls, that people could dial in with the dice players and or somehow use OBS if you really wanted to do a playable video with multiple people. Like, there are definitely ways to do this that you could really bend it to do new things with. If you wanted to do tabletop role-playing games like Dungeons and Dragons, having a document that you can fill out and use, that you can download from my merch site as a playable character sheet. That's to me, like, that would be a fun way to explore that option. I think there were a few other things I was definitely thinking about doing with it. Like, if I can do planners, character sheets, even like interactive game files of some kind, like Mad Libs is something else we could potentially do, where I would build a file that most of it can't be altered, but it prompts you for words at a certain point, and the program drops those in down below. That's a fully playable, like, goof around. And, yeah, it wouldn't be like a huge amazing thing if I did a 100 little Mad Lib kind of story bits, and charged a couple bucks for purchasing that one as a digital file. I mean, yeah, why not? Like, just as an experiment of playing around with that kind of thing. The coloring books sounds interesting. I don't think I've ever used an online tablet or phone coloring book, but it seems like it's an option. And so I'm kind of curious about what I can do with that. But I'm also super curious about this idea of, when I open up that digital file format, seeing that, popular file types section has game files and video files. So, like, video files, if I'm able to upload a video file, like some of my video interactive style, like, I'm thinking along the lines of the YouTube videos where I would do a somewhere along the bar at the bottom, put the markers of click here if you want to jump to this section point. Like, that file format, I may very well be able to upload as playable, choose your own adventure style videos that you can purchase through a Teespring merchandise site. And like, I sort of feel like I have to contact them and really just talk with them about the opportunities here. And some of it may be just create the thing, try to get it up there on the site, and make it, I mean, it looks like there's no way to make them free. So I think the last time we were playing around with this, I was wondering if audio files could be set to 0, and they cannot. Minimum cost, I think, was like 43 to 48 cents. And that would mean no profit for me, but it still has to have a cost to be up on Teespring. So anybody doing it would still have to pay something to do it. But so I like the video files. I think I could probably do some interactive video games, like my video games. I don't know what else to call them. But it looks like they also have the capability to do video gaming files, which is what I was confused about. Like, I don't know any of the formats they're referring to when they have that option shown. So if you go into digital downloads and you look to popular file types, it has .b, .dem, .gam, .nes, .rom, .sav, .tga, .obj, .vtf. I do not know any of those file formats. .obj makes me think that they're talking about like I swear I've seen that somewhere, but I couldn't tell you what it is. NES, I'm pretty sure, is Nintendo games. ROM is a type of file that, like, I'm trying not to remember my old computer terms, and I don't think that's what they're meaning by it. But I do believe that if I were to get a Raspberry Pi and make a Raspberry Arcade system, I believe you're downloading ROMs for old games. And that might be one format. And so there's a part of me wondering if I can sell some of the games I might create, like Cuddle Pop or Liquid Metal Rage or any of those games that Captain Mr. Space Ninja. If I make that, can I sell it as merch in my Teespring on a shelf underneath a video that I put on YouTube? That sounds like an awesome play around. Like I'm very curious about that possibility. But even more so, like they say these are popular file types. But nowhere in here does any of them suggest that I can't upload an STL file. So in my mind, I'm thinking of 3D printers. Like if I build a model in my head, so like I'm not into this kind of thing right now, but I have a friend who's huge into mini wargaming, like Warhammer and that kind of stuff. And if I were to build a design for a character and then like in a 3D modeling setup and test it out to make sure it works well enough in slicers to make sure it's a usable file for 3D printing, could I then sell those STL files as a purchasable piece of merch on a YouTube channel like Roving Jack, where I'm tinkering around with building projects? Like, this is the possibility of me making blueprints for tinkering builds or tool pieces. Like, one of the things I've thought about for a long time is at our makerspace, we have 3D printers and modeling software that I could use to build a model of the pieces I would need to assemble to make a hand plane to do woodworking. So if I took that idea and built a model of a hand plane that I can then assemble in a slicer and have the 3D printer build the pieces that I would put together with a planing blade in there to make a working plane for woodworking, could I then sell the files underneath my Roving Jack channel for that project on the video for that project? To me, like, if they offer that capability, like I don't know for sure if it's possible through what they're currently offering, but it looks like these are popular file types, not the exclusive ones we allow file types. And that little caveat, that little exception makes me think of like, oh, how far can we push this? Like if I go back and sign up for BuildBox game development, can I put out those games as apps, sell them on my merch here on Teespring? If I build with RPG Maker, a game with RPG Maker, and can I drop that finished game into my merch? It depends. I mean, it looks like, Got more than one file, upload a compressed folder instead. Maximum file size 1 gigabyte. So the 1 gigabyte, like, I feel like 1 gigabyte is, you can do a lot with that, especially if you're able to compress the files. So if I made my game and it was like a 9 gig game, if I compress it, I might be able to get it down so that as a zip file, it's much smaller and makes it within that 1 gig marker that somebody could download and play my games from my merch site. I was like, I like the ideas that I could play with here. Like, the possibilities are exciting. Now, how many of those possibilities are going to get shot down when I eventually talk to these people and find out? I don't know. But at the same time, like, this site being able to give me the chance to, if I build a board game that has custom player pieces and you can print them out with an STL file on a 3D printer, yeah, I'm going to do that. Or if I make a sculpture, as an artist, I make a sculpture with my hands and a modeling material, and I use a 3D scanner to scan that sculpture in, fix up any little glitches in the file, STL file, now you can print out a copy of my sculpture. Like, the possibility of that is just, it's super exciting to me. We have the additional possibility of the regular merch that has like home, so canvas prints. Like, we could do canvas prints of certain things, certain artworks. So I could make paintings and other artworks and sell prints through Teespring. And I mean, artworks you can also slap up on some posters. So like a 24 by 36 poster is pretty sizable. But I can make maps for games or stories or things like that. And you can get them as posters. Like, legitimately, like I say, like role-playing game player character sheets, if I do battle mats that you can print out on posters for $10 to $15, those posters can be 18 by 24 or 24 by 36 posters that you can lay out on a table and use as mats for playing games on. Like, legitimately, that's a really big opportunity to play with. Blankets, shower curtains, comforters, beach towels. I might be able to use a shower curtain as if it were a big gaming surface. But yeah, I mean, theoretically, I mean, they have a few other things like the vinyl PVC keychains and custom pins that you could use to make custom pieces for other uses. But over and above, the possibilities opened up by these digital merchandise options. I mean, the audio files, maybe even being able to upload video files, gaming files, digital planners, alterable documents. I mean, the possibilities are there. I'm super excited about some of that right now. That's, like, to me, it's a playground rife for playing around in. If I contact them and ask them about the possibility of STL files and 3D printer based concepts, there's a part of me that's worried to hear back from them that no, that's not possible. I'm like, but I mean, it's a digital file. Like, it's like a PDF. all they would have to do is host it. Somebody downloads it and they can use it at home. I think that's the biggest limitation, because that's why I think, like, they say it's the frequently used, or what is it? I keep screwing that up. I keep walking away from it. Popular file types, not exclusive file types. So what it seems to suggest to me is they can host whatever file format you want to put up here, but the limitation is pretty much exclusively the end user. So whoever's purchasing your product, can they use that file format? To me, that suggests STL files should be doable. And even beyond, like, the 3D printer for sculptures or minis or game pieces or whatnot, like, if I were to include a file that was based on the idea of an 8-foot by 4-foot sheet of plywood with the diagram, with the pattern set out on it, that you can use on a laser cutter or a CNC router to cut out and assemble furniture. Like, they literally have opened up a huge potential of opportunities there. Like, I could make a line of roving jack beach furniture. It flat packs in the car, snaps together. You can sit on the beach on your beach chair. Like, I could do that. I could build a design that you could snap together that way, and you take a 8x4 sheet of plywood and you put it into a CNC router at a makerspace, or if you've got one at home, and cut yourself a flat pack, quick assembly plywood beach chair. Yeah, I could totally do that. Ooh, here's a thought. I hadn't even thought about that. Like, sewing patterns as a digital file format. Like, what else could we do? Could we do, like, pop-up birthday cards? Like a design for pop-up cards where, like, there's a device like vinyl cutters and Cricut paper cutters that you can use to cut out shapes in paper and stencils and stuff like that. If you did that, I could upload files that you could use to cut out, and then part of the file could be the assembly instructions to make paper automatons or pop-up cards or pop-up books for kids. Like, I mean, it's always going to be some assembly required kind of things, but as a digital file, you can set the price at next to nothing for the customer. God, the opportunities here are pretty big if they let you export in some other interesting file formats. Oh, the opportunities there are really good. But that's a lot of ramble about some of my excitement about Teespring's offerings and my thoughts on potential uses. But I'm also looking at, with, like, the one I'm working on right now is trying to figure out the best way that makes sense to release some of my card games. So Runcible Foods and Captain Rita Raygun's Thrilling Interplanetary Adventures, and was there another card game we came up with? I'm not sure. I'd have to look at it, but the reason I bring it up is because I was looking at game crafters as a way of potentially producing some of those things, and I probably still can do that. But I was looking through some stuff the other day, and there's a site online for, like, Dungeons and Dragons style role-playing games that I can go order certain games in digital format. So like the new game Cyberpunk 2077 that came out on the game systems, there is a tabletop role-playing game, pen and paper role-playing game that you can play for that. It's Cyberpunk Red, and it's a $30. You can download the digital files and be playing it tomorrow if you really wanted to. That site is called Drive-Thru RPG. But here's the thing. Drive-Thru RPG allows people like me, if I wanted to publish an RPG game, to publish an RPG game through them as a digital file. Drive-Thru RPG is part of a greater site just called Drive-Thru, and it has drive-through cards where I can get my card game produced as a print-on-demand card game through them. They also have RPG games that I can produce that way. They also have books you can publish, or fiction you can publish. They call it drive-through fiction. The best and downloadable fiction titles. And then they have drive-through comics. Now here's the thing. Each of these, I am more inclined, if I were to do a digital fiction download, Teespring to me seems like the better option. But, I mean, Teespring seems like a better option because I can list them underneath my videos if I wanted to. They can also, the big thing for me on this one is that they have a system in place that lets you donate to charities a percentage of what you're doing. And that's a thing I want to do on everything I do. Pretty much everything I create, I want to donate some of the profits made from that thing to a worthy cause. And the Teespring seems to have all their ducks in a row for that kind of thing. The hardest thing about that is Teespring, they have their digital goods that you can download. That's totally workable. They have their apparel and their home stuff and their accessories. But they don't have, it doesn't look like they have the ability to produce a deck of cards. And it doesn't look like they have the ability to produce a custom board setup. Now, custom board setups are even hard with something like a Game Crafter site. But where it potentially comes into play is if I want somebody to be able to print, get a print version of, say, one of the comic scripts that I wrote years ago. If I get an artist to produce those comics, or use the downloadable, the thing I downloaded on Steam that was an equivalent of Kamipo, posable manga maker. I could use that to make some simple comics and make them downloadable. I'm not super sure that the end result would be super great, but I could definitely use those to build the basic design of the way I want the frames and panels to look, and see if I can hire an artist, or even to a certain degree do my own artwork if I'm willing to invest the hours upon hours into that process. But I could definitely at some point hire a freelance artist to do the illustrations for a comic. And if I want to release that, I want to look to see, do we have the option to do print on demand? And I'm looking at it right now, and it looks like publishing resources, title management, book printing. So it looks like it may be possible. Okay. Card printing? I'm looking at the drive-through comics section, but it is talking about book printing, card printing. Okay, you can upload your file as a PDF or other ebook format file. Though we accept audio, video, software, and other media types as well, whenever you want. So it may be able to be possible to do a narrated comic book. That's interesting. Once you set up your first title, our publisher relations folks will look over your title to make sure that the setup is correct and that the title conforms to our minimum quality standards. They will then activate your title so it will go into the live market space for sale as customers. As customers purchase your title, your sales report reflects this in real time, royalties, yada yada. Since all of our marketplaces share a common title database, you can also cross-list appropriate titles easily to other sites, such as cross-listing novels about your comic characters to drive-through fiction and to 70%. All royalties, yeah. I don't care about the royalties right now. In addition to offering your titles as digital downloads, you can choose to set up some or all of your titles for our print-on-demand program. So it looks like, theoretically, I might be able to list some of my comics, books, and like card games especially, but as possible print on demand so that you could get a hard copy. So books, comics, card games, and RPGs as books, I could potentially do as print on demand. That's a good possibility there. Now, I do not know, and I have to contact RPG, the drive-through company, to get a sense about how they may handle any profits given to charity through their site. I got to find out from them if that's an offer they make available. Because if they don't make that available, like I know that RPG, drive-through RPG this past year in 2020, early 2020, there were RPG makers who were able to allow their RPG, some of their profits to go towards the Australian wildfire recovery programs. And so I know that there are occasions in which they allow people to donate some of their profits to charities. I don't know if they choose the charity that is potentially donatable to at that time. And so I got to find out more about that. And I tried to do a search on that topic before, and I couldn't get a clean result from that. And I kind of want to uncover a little bit more about that information before I make a commitment to that. Because the thing is, like, donations to charity for print and play game designs can be done through Teespring. And I do believe if I were to try to make a print on demand of books, I think there's some sites out there. I think Kindle Direct Publishing is an option for, and I don't know if Kindle Direct Publishing allows me to donate any of the proceeds or profits from a project. But like some of my apparel game designs, I think we could probably do through Teespring easily enough. But it's, and I wonder if Teespring's ability to be flexible and expand past the standard things that they have in store would be able to allow me to print on demand other things. I mean, for artworks, I can do their canvas prints easily enough. That's not a huge difficulty. But board game designs in particular, potentially card games. A real tricky one would be, I think I created a superhero dice game in 2019. Drive-through RPG and drive-through card games, drive-through cards do not seem to offer the ability to do other than books and cards. Okay, I really want to get more information about like their ability to make donations, because for me that's like a make or break thing. Like if drive-through doesn't offer an easy way for me to pick charities to donate profits to, then I'm probably not going to publish the card games or the board games through them. But print on demand comics and print on demand versions of my books, I might. Especially if drive-through is easier than Kindle to make a donation of some of the proceeds. I'm going to have to dig a little bit more into each of those things. But like the opportunity like really seems like it's here. Like between Teespring, drive-through, Kindle, and maybe Game Crafters options, the possibility of being able to just produce all of these things that I've been designing and make them for sale so that I don't have, because here's the thing, with Game Crafters, there are two ways to do donations to charity. I could design, say, my my board game for Access Granted, and I could simplify the board design so that they can print it. And then once they've printed out the game, I can list it for sale. But in order to make any donations of any of the profits from the print-on-demand game, that you could go to their site, order that game, and have it shipped to you, and you would have a physical copy of the game to play, and I would be paid for it, and I don't have to keep inventory. So like I don't have to stock a stack of them over here next to me while I record my videos and ship them out when somebody orders one from me. But to do the charitable donation aspect of it, I believe I would say Access Granted would be some of those teaching children to code camps. So I could set them up as a charity. I would have to set them up as a co-creator, and they would control the account with me about the profits made from that game. I don't really care for that aspect of it, because at that point it's making them a co-creator and not somebody who's benefiting from my creation and giving them control over the website and any of the influence over things done with it. And I don't want to do that. First of all, I don't think some of these charities that I would want to donate to would want to waste the frickin' time to help manage the site for that. I don't think it's worth them to hire an intern or whatever to handle that end of some little thing. Like, it's not worth their time or effort. And second of all, there's another way you could potentially do it where you just make the games available through there, and then through taxation qualifications or whatever, accounting bullshit in the background, you can then donate it yourself. And that's a possibility if it really comes down to it. To make board games that you can purchase without me having to stock a warehouse full of materials to maintain and organize the shipping and processing myself, to go through these print-on-demand services makes it so much easier to handle all of that on the back end that I would prefer to go through those channels, because it means I don't have to manage the business of the shipping and processing. I design it, I make it available, and then I donate potential from what I've designed. And so, like, if there's an easy way to do that, I'm going to favor those. There may not always be an easy way. So it may be hard to produce my card games in physical format where I can donate the profits to a charity. It's possible that the easiest way to do that is accounting after the fact. And at that point, I might just do that through Game Crafters or drive-through cards. But the sheer number of possibilities that Teespring makes available gets me really excited. I was looking up earlier possible ways of making, I mean, it looks like in the file formats that they talk about, yeah, I'm back to Teespring, I'm sorry. It's just so exciting for me to look at this and go, like, document formats they take are PowerPoint document file types. And I know you can make a daily planner or a monthly planner or a yearly planner in a PowerPoint file type. And theoretically, if you make a cartoon, an animation of some kind, like I'm supposed to be working on this month but haven't put a lot of time into yet, if I make a series of cartoons or animations, I could upload them for download on digital goods on Teespring for sale if I wanted to. Actually, you don't even have to do an animation. We could, if I took some of the scripts that I wrote for live action stories and stuff, you could literally make a TV series that people could purchase. You could probably do the podcast games and plain old podcasts if you wanted to too. So it looks like Teespring offers most of the possibilities. I wonder though, there are some other ways I can get games printed, game components printed up through other companies other than drive-through or game creators. But they don't usually have a site for hosting a store to sell stuff through. But would Teespring be able to work with them? Like if I contacted, like here, let me see if I can pull up through here and just take a look. Game making. So if I look up at, that's not what I'm looking for. Did I lose that link? I might have. Okay, board game production. So there's Game Crafters, drive-through, print and play, custom playing cards, Panda Game Manufacturing, Wingo Games, and Long Pack Games are the ones that I have up here right now. And I don't think most of them offer you the ability to sell through their site. But if I contact Teespring and tell them maybe Pandago Games is able to produce certain components for game designs that I want to produce, could I sell? Would they be able to work together in some sort of partnership to be able to produce purchasable board games through Teespring that I can use in my merch site on Teespring? That's a possibility I could look into. I definitely have to reach out to Teespring again. I may have a business card from somebody I talked to at the VidCon. If I don't, I will have to reach out sort of from scratch again. But I mean, for the opportunities this makes available, there's a part of me like I'm hardcore. Like, we're still in January right now, and I'd like to get some things up for sale on the Teespring site by June. But even if I don't get a lot up there by June, by December holiday season time, I'd love just to see, like, I'd like to have 5 different things of these, like e-comics, maybe an ebook, some clothing merchandise, print and play card game, maybe board game pieces on Teespring, and maybe the digital planner. So like by December, you could have at least 5 of those projects that we built in 2019 for sale. I'd love to be able to achieve that this year. And, if during the course of this year, I make some artworks or videos or some of those podcasts, if I could make them available, that would be the dream, I think, at this point. Now it's about whether or not I can burn the candle at both ends while working this job for a few more months, just to see if I can get all my ducks in a row to a point where I can just say, like, all right, ready to just jump full swing into making this happen and see what I can get to happen because of it. I think the opportunities here are really good. I have to make some reach out effort to talk to some of these people and find out that donation portion of that project. But like that's the thing. Like, a few of my projects are going to be a little bit hard to do. So looking at Teespring, this is just reoccurring to me here. Looking at Teespring, let's see. January is animation. February is Alphabet Project. March is music, which I could potentially sell on my merch page as an album of my music. And then it's a weird idea to do that, but March is March to Your Own Tune. April is magic tricks, practical jokes, optical illusions, stand-up comedy, basically just fooling around. And could I do a stand-up comedy special or a magic performance? Maybe. So like I could see doing that maybe as a purchasable merch item. May is making a photo book, and that is where I think we start to hit like the limits, because Teespring doesn't seem to be doing books. Now, I don't know for certain whether or not drive-through fiction doesn't feel like it's meant to do picture books. And at the same time, it's not cards, maybe comics. That feels like stretching it, though. That's sort of like getting it wrong. There are a few sites, I mean, I'm pretty sure I could do through Kindle Direct Publishing. but I might also be able to go through a few other sites. So what do I got here? I know there's one that I set aside at one point. I mean, I'm not going to spend the whole night digging through it just to tell you what it was, but there was a site that I had set up. No. No, no, that's a game jam. Your photography book, and it looks like there are a couple sites that were recommended. There's an article I was looking at. My experience in the past has been kind of like articles tend to favor the ones that are sponsoring or hosting it. But there's one called Blurb, Shutterfly, Pro DPI, Miller, MPix, and White House Custom Color seem to be options for print photo books. And, that would be May. So that one's going to be a little bit more of a trick to find out which one makes the most sense going forward for a photo book. But outside of that, June is Game Jam. So if I can sell games on Teespring, I'll see if I can do a game. July would be an independent film production. If I could make an independent film, could I sell that film on Teespring? Maybe. It seems like I can do video formats. August was a new recipe every day. September, I think, was paint. October was skits. November was pen, so pen and ink or calligraphy or those types of things. And then December would be invent calendar. So create something, invent something every day, prototype an invention every day. So like some of that, like the recipes I could potentially do as a print on demand book, but or an ebook even. Teespring, I could sell it as an ebook that you can purchase, and some of the profits go to a charity. September would be paintings, and I can sell those on canvas or as digital wallpapers. And October being skits, again, could be videos that you can purchase. I don't know that I want to do everything like that. I don't want to like spam everything onto that format. Like the skits, I feel like is just me wanting to make skits. I can leave those free on YouTube. I don't have to make a profit off of everything, but skits, pen, that one's a little more tricky. Like I would have to think about how to merchandise that one, but like I said, I'm not necessarily gung-ho to merchandise every month of this year. And the invent calendar, that might be something where, like on the Roving Jack channel, I would release as blueprints or patterns that you could print out on a 3D printer or cut on a CNC or a laser cutter. So, I mean, like all the opportunities for all sorts of creativity are there. The downloadable versions of stuff are nice. The physical products would be nice too if I can find a physical version for each of those. Some of it just, I mean, they don't need a digital version. Like the animation, a physical version. Like, how would you do a physical version of the animation? You don't have to. Music, don't have to. I don't know how I would merchandise what I'm doing in February. That one's hard to do because that's really just sort of like a challenge for myself. Music album is fine digital. You don't need a physical copy. And like the comedy and jokes and magic tricks, that's a little bit harder to merchandise, but not impossible. Some things to think about. We're already an hour in. I got things to do before I go to bed, so I need to head out. I appreciate you sticking around and letting me ramble like that. But for now, take care. Hope you're feeling better than you have been. And have a good night. Whew. I need to get a drink. I've been talking for an hour. Good to hear you're doing all right. Catch you on what's the day today? Today's Thursday. I will see you Sunday.